Today's episode of the Outline Podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering the listeners of this show a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook. You can redeem this by going to www.audibletrial.com/outlinepod, or you can click the link in the show notes to redeem. All right, let's start the show.
The Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne. The Outline with Kevin Dwayne. The Outline with Kevin Dwayne. This is the Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne with Kevin Dwayne.
Hey guys, this is the Outline Podcast, and I am your host, Kevin Dwayne. This is your weekly discussion of all things LGBT culture, entertainment, and a piece of encouragement for everyone. Have a very special show this week. I have the co-founder of Thrive SS, Daniel Driffin, here with me today.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining the show today. I know that I slid in your DM a while ago.
That sounds already inappropriate.
And I was just like, hey, I want you on the show. And I know it was like a gap of time. I'm like, let me reach out to you in October. It was like, I swear to God, it was like July or August or something. But shit happens, things go on, and you gotta.
I mean, it is November.
Right.
Okay.
Almost. But yeah, but I'm glad to have you here because I've been wanting to have this talk for a while, but I wanted it to be done right. I didn't want it to be based on stereotypes or things that aren't factual and things that are not. I needed it to be real, and I think you would be a great person for that. So first things first, let's talk about who you are.
Okay.
So can you explain to people what you do with Thrive SS?
Certainly. So again, hello, listening audience, and as always, thank you for inviting me to your space. So I am Daniel Driffin. I serve as a co-founder of Thrive SS. Thrive SS actually is a longer acronym, of course, and it stands for Transforming HIV Resentment into Victory Everlasting Support Services. Thrive SS, I'll take everything out. So we are truly a non-profit different. That's how we think of ourselves. We're doing nonprofit differently. We are a member-based network of people living with HIV. Specifically, here in the Atlanta metropolitan, we created an online support system roughly in 2015. We started about 40 guys, and now we have roughly 850, specifically in Atlanta.
Oh my.
And we touch about more than 3,500 across the nation yearly.
Wow.
So all of the services here in Atlanta is infused with something that we call MIPA, and that's meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. So if it's a public health campaign, if it's a meeting at the intersection of HIV, STI, Black, gay, anything, we firmly believe that number one, Black gay men living with HIV or people living with HIV should lead those efforts, and we should turn it inside out. So that is what truly Thrive SS is doing since inception to now. You can find us online. Our homepage is www.thrivess.org. Facebook, Thrive SS, Instagram, Thrive SS, Twitter, Thrive SS.
And I'll put some of those in the show notes too, so people can actually just click the link. Because you don't want to type nothing in.
Right.
They want to click links. Make it easy.
Hyperlinks are cool.
Hyperlinks are cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, of course, I've known you since 2012 because I used to help out at, was it Evolution?
Yeah, the Evolution
Project.
Project.
Yeah, the Evolution Project. So I used to help out. That was an interesting experience too. That was my first time hearing someone. So someone made a comment to me and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that you were positive." And I'm like, "I'm not positive. Why would you think that?" Like, "Oh, well, typically people don't volunteer unless they're positive." I guess I was naive. And I was just like, "Oh, wow. I didn't know that that was even an assumption that just because you believe in something and want to help out, that's what that meant." But that was my first time hearing that because I used to help you guys with the table setups at Pride and the videos and stuff, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the community around it, but I didn't realize that was even a thing.
Yeah, and honestly, that thing, it's called stigma,
Right.
HIV stigma, and we define it as, negative associations or negative characteristics as a result of a health status.
Mhm.
The health status specifically being HIV. Interesting, and I think we'll probably talk about stigma for the majority of the night. Stigma is like a scientific wonky word, right? People throw a lot of stuff underneath the umbrella of stigma,
Yeah.
but I think oftentimes we can divide it and pierce it out. Thinking about shame, thinking about fear, denial. Maybe it's homophobia, maybe it's racism, maybe it's transphobia. All of it mixed together.
Just throw
But
it all
yeah,
in there.
I think oftentimes when individuals, especially, men who may identify as same gender loving, volunteer or interact with an HIV community
Yeah.
or organization, automatically it's assumed that they're also positive.
But it's so weird though, and it's one of those things where I get both sides of it. I get the idea of like, oh, you're only doing this because you're affected by it.
Mhm.
But on the other side, I look at it from preventative measures.
Mhm.
It's just like, but also, if you're negative, you're also a part of the solution too. Like the whole idea is to come together, but that's a whole other perfect utopian world. So
Yes, I think in a perfect situation, yes. But I think, that's our whole larger conversation of only those people affected by it should be answering those questions, So like when I think of racism, so like only Black people should have an answer to how to fix racism. No,
we didn't create the problem.
There you go.
Right. So it's one of
There
those
you
things,
go.
yeah.
The person or the people who are the least empowered should not be dictated or demanded to create those solutions. It
Yeah.
truly has to be everyone, especially those people who is perceived to be beholders of power.
Absolutely. And I've been stalking all your social media stuff in the last couple of days. I have to make sure, And so you did this interview with AJC and you gave a statistic that's saying that in Atlanta, the rate is like 1 in 2.
Yeah.
So if you're in a room, that's half of the Black men that are in the room. So it's like, why wouldn't you be involved if it's literally...
I mean, why wouldn't you be involved? I think it goes back to what we'll be discussing for the rest of the time. I think for so very long, HIV have been connected to like gay men. Gay men is, I think being gay in the South is difficult. But oftentimes, when we think about the other circles, so like folks who may be pushed outside of their church because they're gay. Some church folks seeing that being gay HIV is a direct result of gay sex or butt sex and shit like that. He told me I could curse, y'all, so just
he has to put on another hat. I think he's professional throughout the day, and then he gets here and I pass him liquor and say, "Feel free to just cuss. It's okay." So I get it. I get it.
So I just think for so very long, all of those things hit at a very interesting intersection, and we haven't had the opportunities to create safe enough spaces to pull them apart, and really dive deep on to what is going on and why is it showing up the way that it is showing up.
Absolutely. And that makes you say, so that's what I ultimately wanted this episode, is to kind of start that conversation. But then you think to yourself, where do you start? First of all, getting tested. I think that's number one. I know that there are a lot of people out there who just aren't getting tested because they feel like it's out of sight, out of mind, but you pay a heavy cost in the end.
Yeah.
And what I want people to understand, which we'll talk about that too, is that the people who actually get tested and go into art and antiretroviral
therapy.
Good job. People know that. I mean, you're actually suppressing the virus and you're getting your numbers down to undetectable, which we'll also dig into that. These people are actually way more safe than those who aren't getting tested with this high viral load that's just running rapid in those things that happen. But the problem is there's people who have this either fear or denial, because there's a lot of people out here who don't identify as gay or bisexual. They just like to fuck with men time to time without condoms and all this whole ordeal.
It's a lot. It's so much, So I think the easy layers or the less difficult to pull back is the fear and the denial, But then I think about the more intertwined things, So thinking about how Black people specifically, especially in the South, medical distrust, So truly not being comfortable enough to talk about these things with your provider, with your nurse practitioner, with your social worker.
Or you have that if you even have them. Because some people feel like, I don't want another bill. There's many people who don't go to doctors because they're like, I can't even afford
I'm not going to the dentist right now because the dentists get paid before they look in your mouth.
They do.
And I just don't understand that.
It's trash.
Okay? It is trash.
I could have a Kia right now for what I pay my dentist.
Baby.
But I had to get the stuff done because you know that dental health is linked to heart disease. But people don't know that because they're not seeing people. So, yeah.
I mean, and it's just like...
It's a medical distrust.
Medical distrust. Okay, yes. Yeah. Medical distrust is the one. Transportation. We live in the South. Yes, we live in Atlanta, so individuals believe it's easier to navigate because we have the MARTA or Uber or rideshare, but very well, it can easily take someone, and this is seen in a study, I think, released last year. The average person using MARTA to get to their HIV doctor takes about an hour in 45 minutes, there and back.
Wow.
Okay, just to see a provider.
Wow.
Compared to if you have a car, that's 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
So, I mean, even if we could fix transportation, we would open up a new number of folks who could access care easier.
Okay.
When we think about, again, we're in the South, we're in Georgia, Medicaid expansion. We are not a Medicaid expansion state.
Right.
Instantly 400 plus thousand people would have additional access to medical services. And we're already paying into those systems.
Right.
So I think it's fear and denial.
But then it's a whole nother slew of things that come with it.
Yes.
And so, but it's an interesting thing though, because I feel like some people don't even know that until they cross the border of getting tested, though.
Yes.
There are still people who aren't. They just think they're good because they don't have any discharge or any apparent things, or they ignore their entire seroconverting weekend or however it went.
And everyone doesn't have it.
Everyone doesn't have it. However, me and my doctor talk so much. And I asked him, he's like, I have to tell you that everyone doesn't have one. However, there are people who just knock it off as the flu.
So can you easily distinguish between the flu and the common
No,
cold?
but it's one of those. Well, the flu, you're like weak and like can't get out. I mean, when I get sick, it's like can't get out of bed. Lymph node. Yes,
you get sick.
Everyone's individual. I understand where we're going with this, and like I said, that's why you're here. But it's also one of those things where it's just like every person I know that I've talked to who has been transparent with me, they remember. They're like when they got really, really sick and they're like, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do this. And it's one of those things where it's just like scientifically, we keep saying everyone doesn't go through that.
Yeah.
And I respect that. But when I talk to actual people, I'm like, they're like, oh no, I remember how sick I was and things like that. So it's one of those things where it's like, I get it for the sake of not generalizing. But then it's also one of those things of like, I know we're just protecting this kind of, we don't want to work with generalization. So I get it.
So I think it's complicated, right? I think if this is a conversation from someone who is living in the South, maybe that can happen, right? Mm-hmm. But that's as a result of testing later in the stages of HIV. Okay. So like when we think about here in Atlanta, and this was a study about 3 years ago, 3 out of 4 individuals who tested positive at Grady came back with a stage 4 HIV diagnosis, or also known as AIDS. Okay. And again, that's as a result of their CD4, their protection cells being low, their viral load being extremely high, and or having an opportunistic illness like certain pneumonia, certain cancers, things like that. That's truly as a result of passing a symptom-less period, living longer with HIV undiagnosed. That's when sicknesses, that's when illnesses happen like that.
And I understand that part. Absolutely. I get that part as far as symptoms. I'm talking about like initial reaction. I'm talking about like the initial seroconversion. Like everything I've read on it has been like, no, I got really, really sick.
I think it truly really, really depends. I think it depends on the individual.
Because every immune system is different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think we would be doing a grave disservice if we just, would paint it with one color paintbrush.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I definitely err on the side that we are not, and this is like in research also, we are not testing people frequently enough. And when I say testing people, we're not testing the right people. So like people who are truly at risk for HIV, and not because they're like fucking on a headstand or like pussy popping on.
And it doesn't even take that though. It's just a matter of who you are and like what community you're in.
Right. And and those drivers, like we see specific drivers like homelessness, like lack of insurance, like education, like income as true drivers to infection. Like if anyone leaves this podcast with one thing, know that Black, gay, bisexual, same gender loving men are not having like more rampant wild sex. That's further.
We're pretty much having the same sex as everyone else.
We're having the same sex. We're actually having like safer sex than everyone else. We get tested more frequently. We have fewer partners. But again, it's as a result of our community being smaller first, and those people living within the community who are also living with HIV, and who don't know their status, it's because their viral load is so high. That's why like new infections are increased. That's why we see 1 and 2 lifetime expectancies if these are unchanged. But it's not because bitch, you fucking this one, I'm fucking that one. No, it's that's the furthest.
And that's pure ignorance too. It's like it only takes one opportunity to become positive. You know what I mean? It's not like because you out here in these streets. No, it doesn't take all of that.
Exactly.
And I think that's also part of the stigma.
Yes.
People don't want that.
Yes.
And they don't want to have to kind of like and deal with that kind of idea of like, oh, everyone's gonna see all of my partners on the wall. That's not how
Oh
it
my
works.
lord! If y'all can see my partners. But no, I think it's really. I think it's hard, especially for men, but especially for like Black gay men, again, to have safe enough spaces to really pull back what we like to do sexually, without like judgment.
Well, how about the erasure of bisexuality?
Certainly.
I feel like I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, that's all a DL man really is. You guys want to paint these pictures of like gay and straight, but I'm like, if he is fucking a woman and a man, he's bisexual. But we have this thing, especially in the Black community, I mean the world, but especially in the Black community, where we want to erase bisexuality. And I'm sorry, if you got kids at home, seems like you're bisexual. I am a gay man. I do not rise to the occasion at all for a vagina. I do not. I identify as gay. I am a gay man. But I do think there are a lot of DL men out there who are indeed bisexual. But because of the erasure, nothing.
So I have difficulties processing nomenclature like DL.
Yeah.
I again think very easily we make villains of people who are not in our everyday conversation.
Okay.
So I err on the side of not like using words like DL.
Fair enough. What would you say? Bisexual men?
I think men. I think we can have a meaningful conversation just using men.
Okay.
It allow individuals to say who they are, versus us painting a picture on who we believe these men might be.
Got it.
Yeah, I'll stop there.
Oh, no. That's good. That's absolutely good. No, that absolutely works. But it's one of those things but okay, so more along the line. But what are your thoughts though? I think it is writing.
Oh my God, you got me up in these country parts. It is raining. How am I gonna get home? Oh my lord. Okay, what's the question?
It'll work itself out. Okay. It doesn't really last a long time out here.
Okay. If you say so, okay.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the erasure of bisexuality? Because I think that's honestly, without even bringing in men and however they identify and things like that, I really feel like this is a societal problem. It's because we're telling people what they are.
Yeah. And
we're not allowing them to even live in their truth. Yeah. Therefore, they have to hide behind these facades even.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what it is. We make individuals, we make people fit in boxes to make it make sense for us.
All right.
I think until we, again, have safe enough spaces where men, women, and those who, they don't even subscribe to terminology like men or women, until we allow them to say or create new spaces and be respectful of those new spaces that they create, we'll be in the same conversation.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation where with individuals saying, oh, he or she is trans, well, I don't get it. It's not your place to get.
Yeah.
It's really not your place to get.
I tried writing a status yesterday and I kept erasing it because it wasn't coming out the way I wanted to say. I am ultimately sick of people who say stuff like that. I just don't get it. I just don't understand. It's like, no, because Google is free and you have tons of resources. You just don't want to get it. You don't want to move your cognitive dissonance. You don't want to find a way to process something because you want to actually oppress it. And you say, I don't get it, so you can continue ignoring that people are being oppressed. Yeah. And so I have an issue when people say that because it's like, it's not that hard. It's literally an equation right there. Don't let me tell you it's like dealing with racism and telling white people. You're literally telling them, hey, you have privilege. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. Okay, I'm just going to leave here.
And you don't even have to make sense on Google. You can put the craziest thing on Google. I promise you, 3.5 million people have looked it up in the last 2.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I definitely think we have to ask more of ourselves. You know, what is it? What truly is it? Why am I being closed-minded? Why am I being stuck on this? And who is it saving?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's mostly fear. But mostly fear comes from ignorance. And the healing factor for ignorance is knowledge.
Come on.
Oh wow. Oh wow. But I always think about my mom who has passed on. But my mom I always say she was ignorant, but not in a negative way. Mm-hmm. She just didn't know. Mm-hmm. My uncle died at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. He was on the quilt and everything. It left a very sour taste in my family's mouth, needless to say. They thought it was a white man's disease. They thought he was like rebelling against the family. They're like, oh, he was straight. I was like, he was a cheerleader. Y'all are not about to play me right now. Like, get out of here. Anywho, so it left a very bad taste in my family's mouth. Okay. So when I came out of the closet, it was like, oh Lord, here comes this shit, you know, or whatever. But it wasn't that bad though. When I moved to the South from California, when I moved to the South, I've heard horror stories that made me say, oh, my coming out was actually okay. Mm-hmm. It was the scariest thing to me as an 18-year-old then, but hearing I'm just like, oh my God, my cakewalk. I'd probably do it again just because. Anywho, my mom, as she started, you know, she gave me the whole, I don't like it, but I love you, that whole deal.
Hate the sin, love the sinner.
Right. But she wasn't that deep though on it. She was just more or less, I just don't like that, you know. Mm-hmm. But as time went on, you could see her antennas kind of being like, the first thing, we're riding in the car and I was mentioning a friend from high school, straight friend. She was like, so is he gay? I'm like, no, he's straight. She's like, and he's I'm like, yeah, he's fine with it. She's like, so gay people and straight people can be friends? I'm like, yeah.
That's where our conversation started. HIV negative people can be with HIV.
Right. And so her mind was like, oh. Then this guy, not my first, but he was like heartbroken. I came home over it. Like, I'm a big softie, especially at that age, crying or whatever. And she was just looking at me like, wow. Like, she was like, I have to admit, I always thought it was just sex. Like, the fact that you actually have fallen in love and I made it real for her. Mm-hmm. And so I say it was ignorance because she just didn't have an example that was there. Mm-hmm. So, but it was solved by knowledge. And by the time she passed, it was like, whatever. Like, I just want you to find someone. Like, it was weird. I had this other boyfriend who she didn't like him at all. And I thought it was like, I was like, oh, here she comes with this shit or whatever, you know. But then it was after we broke up. She was like, oh no, it wasn't that. She was just like, well, he was also very discreet. She was like, that man was afraid of himself. And he looked like he was ashamed to even be in my house. She's like, why would you want to be with someone who's afraid of themselves? I said, well, teach me. She just did she was just like, no, I just didn't like him because he was afraid of himself. She was like, he came here with his head down. He didn't even want to look at me. He looked like he was just absolutely afraid to even be with you. So that's why I didn't care for him.
And you know, mamas always know.
They always
Mama, I'll never forget, like coming out for me, it was difficult, but we've grown from there. And around the time that I came out, I started journaling, and like my first journal that I received from my mom was like, you know, my ultimate goal is to protect you from the horrors of the world, you know? And I think regardless of the good times and the not so good times, I think that protection is still there, you know, and I think it's figuring out this shit called life.
Yeah.
You know, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this past weekend, saying like we have to be okay with ourselves in growth, but we also have to be okay with our mothers, our fathers, our family in growth too. Mm-hmm. Because as we interact more and more, they're not the same people that they started off with us at 13 or 14.
Yeah. They're growing too.
They're growing too.
And me now, okay, especially when I hit my 30s, I was just like, how in the fuck did my parents even do this? Like, how? Like, I feel like the light bulb just came on in the last couple of years. How were you raising kids and figuring out private schools and math problems and paying bills?
Like,
because these are new bills. These are this generation's bills. I don't believe they were paying the same bills because it doesn't make any sense.
I don't.
So
I don't know.
Yeah, they're all figuring it out. So that's real.
Everyone is figuring it out at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's the magical part for me, I think. Because no one has like the instruction.
Yeah.
So you try something, it don't result in how you think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's try this again.
Yeah.
But I think we really have to be okay with that. We have to continue to be okay in creating spaces where that back and forth growth can occur.
Absolutely. So that was a great bear off. No, this is how the show works. It's great. It's a conversation. So once you get past the testing part, if we know the whole idea, but I think it's just like we want to just create an understanding here. So if you're negative, continue doing your preventative methods unless you're just going by a wing and a prayer. There's some people just like who's just out here just like listen. You
don't have to be out here with a wing and a prayer.
You don't have to, but there are a lot of people who are just like whatever. But here's the thing: consider there's PrEP.
Yes.
And then, like, if you feel you've been exposed, there's PEP.
Yes.
And then there's condoms and there's things of that sort. So that's the negative pile.
Yes.
If you do find out that you are positive, then you move into treatment.
Yes. If you walk in someplace, learn your status, and you are living with HIV, the best piece of information is to really start care immediately. Mm. We know that if people living with HIV are started on HIV antiretroviral therapy, ARVs,
sorry.
if they are placed on ART immediately, number one, they survive 30 times longer. People living with HIV are living 70 plus years old now.
Yeah, it's not what it was. People still have this view of like the 80s, early 90s.
That's no more. And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I think, again, it truly depends on where we are in the country. I think access to care, of course, is more difficult in the Deep South. But we do not have to see someone, we just don't have to see that image of what HIV was, especially with like the Kaposi sarcoma or the large blotches.
But here's the thing, and please teach me, but isn't that more of a advanced stage anyway? Is that more AIDS anyway?
Yeah, but oftentimes
it happens with HIV as well.
So oftentimes, Black and brown men in the South, where we are coming back with that end stage diagnosis. That's the thing.
Got it.
So I mean, and that's as a result of maybe testing positive initially and never starting care. Okay. If you do not start HIV care, again, like that is what happens. Your immune system is weakened until that state occurs. That's where folks, go to a place like Grady and don't return home. Because their body is just so weakened to a point that your body just can't come back from, So if someone is living with HIV and they're diagnosed on a Monday, they literally should start care or start medicine that Monday afternoon.
So what does that look like? Is that like an urgent care type visit, or is that is there like some kind of, well, here's the thing.
Okay.
I had a partner years ago, who found out he was positive while we were dating. But I remember him finding out and going through that horror deal. But then I remember him seeing like an infectious diseases. I remember that. And then he had contact, but it was like the next week or so. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what it looks like? Or is it an urgent care type situation where it's like, oh, we need to get you immediately?
Yeah, so it can be both. So when we think about immediate care, it truly depends. Again, this conversation is so like geographically centered, right? Here in Atlanta, we are trying to go to a 72-hour conversation. So like you find out, let's say you find out on Monday, best case scenario, you're on meds by Wednesday or Thursday, you know?
Best
case scenario, Wednesday or Thursday. At least in care on meds within 30 days, you know? In a place like New Orleans, you can literally walk in, learn your status Monday, and be on meds Monday night.
In New Orleans?
New Orleans, New York City.
I don't know why I'm shocked by that.
So you're shocked by it because Louisiana actually has Medicaid expansion. Ding, ding, ding. Okay?
There we go.
You know, because again, like you have to think about access, you know? But once someone is on meds for HIV, their viral load is immediately decreased. You know, folks can become undetectable or viral suppression in the science world, where there's lower than usually 20 copies of HIV or under in your system. Again, once you're undetectable or virally suppressed, you are not transmitting HIV to any of your partners.
You equals you.
You equals you.
Okay.
Yes.
And I do want to dive into that. So, we're still gonna put a pin in it. Okay. Because I want to dive into that. Okay. Put a pin in you equals you. Because that's it's very important. That actually drove most of my reason for having you on this show.
Okay, cool stuff.
Okay, so there's that. I think it'll help with the stigma.
Certainly.
Now, with the access, because I was thinking about that too. So let me tell you, I always read my with my EOBs every time I get my prep. I look at the numbers. Now I have the Gilead coupon and then like it's covered, but I always think to myself, if I actually had to pay for this, oh my God. Yeah. Like wow. Yeah. Like, and that's just for the one Truvada. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my, like the numbers, like I meet my deductible every year with that thing. You're just like, oh my God, like it goes so high. So I was thinking about that too. That is a whole another thing too. So are these like you said, we don't have Medicaid expansion here, but are there other programs available here that are able to assist?
Yeah. So again, thinking about people living with HIV, across the nation, we have a program called the Ryan White Care Program. And this is a federal expenditure from Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, that actually takes care, medically speaking, of people living with HIV. We know that there's roughly 1.2 million people living with HIV in the nation. The Ryan White programs take care of about 500,000 people. So about 50% of people living with HIV are receiving care through one federal program.
And I have heard that name before.
Yeah, so the program is divided across different parts. So like there's a part for big cities and large metropolitan areas. There's a part that specifically pays for drugs. There's a part that keeps people living with HIV on private health insurance. There's large clinics. There's women, infant, and children programs. And there's also a pot of money set aside for like non-traditional things. And that's where we try new research projects, looking at like how can we get special populations into care? How do we keep them into care? And it also pays for like the Minority AIDS Initiative, and that's programmed specifically for Black and Brown people or marginalized communities affected by HIV. And we assist doctors, nurse practitioners, anyone who touches like care and learning opportunities. So
the resources are there. But they're just. I know they can probably be scarce and
That's
right.
it. That's it.
But at the same time, there's still a silver lining there that you just like knowing is the most important part. Versus
It starts
just
with
thinking
knowing.
that you're going to just suffer and you
Right.
know.
Right. And I think also, I think a newer piece of the conversation is additional motivation around people living with HIV. You know, and I think that's like your networks, and that's truly like where Thrive comes into the conversation. You know, here in Atlanta, we started in 2015. We are going to be 3 years old this year, but we're infusing non-traditional conversations, you know? So we're creating new photo campaigns of same gender loving men living with HIV openly, you know? So that's...
I've actually seen those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We would love if you want to take some photos for us. You know, but that's infusing Black and brown people into the traditional HIV magazines. It's also ensuring that someone walking into their care provider, regardless of where they are in the South, you know, they see people who look like them. I can't tell you the number of times, you know, and I go to a big HIV specialty like organization. I find it difficult truly finding magazines with Black and brown people in it. I find it difficult in seeing men my age on the walls. You know, I go to health departments across the South. Like, it's an anomaly to see a Black gay man providing services.
It wasn't until I moved here, honestly, until I started like coming to like Evolution. I didn't see it at all. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I didn't see it at all in California. It's California, for God's sake. You know, like, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, I think so often, you know, I mean, I think that's the low-hanging fruit, you know, to ensure that the people that you are serving sees them in all aspects of their care.
Representation matters.
So we call it meaningful involvement.
Meaningful involvement.
MIPA matters, you know. So to ensure that there's Black and brown people at your front desk, as your nurse practitioners, as your nurse assistants, as physicians, as board members, as people delivering services within the community, all those things matter. Again, I think it invites more people into services than pushing them away.
Absolutely. So there will be that. And of course, if you are, because I mean, in those cases, that's for the end of just getting the resources and figuring things out. But then if you are working, you have your health providers and things like that. One thing that bothered me, okay, so my PrEP doctor is way better than my previous primary physician, and I had an issue with that. No, I really had an issue with that. Like I've been on PrEP I just had my 18 month because they drain you of every liquid you have every 3 months. Every quarter, they're like, okay, you're going to be here for an hour, give it up. And not in the way you like. So they're like, oh, this is your 18-month appointment. I'm like, oh, okay. But so I've been on it 18 months. And it's funny, my numbers are better because I was skeptical. Okay. You can go back to my show before I got on PrEP. It was called I'm Not Prepared. And I was critical of it. But then I eventually was like, I'll try it for a year. My numbers actually got better. Like my kidney function. Like it actually got better. And the whole idea was like, no, it's going to eat away at you. You know, like that was my skepticism, like most people. But actually, I was looking at my numbers and I had a print. I said, oh, come through, like everything. But also my doctor was telling me, he's like, yeah, because he's like, there's something about being on PrEP and then making healthier habits and doing things that people tend to do better because
not only people, men. Okay, men are starting newer relationships with the medical profession. Okay, I mean, you have to think about it. So, like, if you're a boy or a male at a young age, you're not seeing a doctor or a medical provider unless you're sick or you're getting a sports physical.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
Okay?
That's real.
Compared to young girls, women,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they see a gyno or in my mind, OBGYN is like the same thing, but I know it's not because it's a slash in between there.
Yeah.
But they're seeing people.
Right.
You know, they see people. I don't know how any of the vagina thing works or anything like
yes,
that.
They are
But
seeing people.
in my mind, I know they're seeing people. You know?
Yeah.
We don't see anyone.
Listen. And
We don't see anything unless something's broke.
But there's also certain things that we don't even know about either. How about this? I wasn't.
Come on.
Whatever.
You gonna talk about getting your butt swabbed?
Yes, I wasn't anally swabbed until I was like 24, and I was like, "Oh, this is a thing." They're like, of course, it's a thing. You get fucked in it, don't you? But here's the thing: primary physicians are just like, "Oh, whatever,"
because doctors are not comfortable enough in talking about sex.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a Medscape project, and we can put this as a resource. But doctors and medical providers are not comfortable enough to talk about sex with their patients. Okay, and then on the opposite side, they believe their patient, okay, would be comfortable enough in asking them a question about sex, and it doesn't work that way.
My doctor didn't even know about PrEP. Didn't even know it was a preventative thing. I'm like, I'm sure it's in one of the medical journals or something by now.
It was. And
it was just like, oh, it's for preventative. I remember when they first prescribed it, I was on the phone with CVS, and she was like, they have this for preventative? I'm like, yeah.
I promise you, like, PrEP has been approved FDA since 2012. It's 2018. Yeah. I still hear those conversations daily.
Straight people don't know anything about it. They literally like, my homegirl was like, can I go on it? I was like, you can. Yeah. If you feel you can. Yeah. But like, there's people like, I still to this day, they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, there is a pill that you can take.
But you know, like, I think I can understand why a layperson would have that conversation. I find difficulties in understanding why someone with an advanced degree is there, especially MD, NP, and pharmacy.
It concerns me though.
It's really
because if you don't know about it, then
how do the lay people?
And that's what killed me about it. That's why it turned me off my primary physician, because I was like, well, hell.
Why the hell am I coming to
every 3 months? I get a yearly physical, but every 3 months they're touching all on me, checking my functions, making sure I'm good, checking in with me, and then the talks are way more authentic and non-judgmental.
Yeah.
There's no furrow of the brow. There's no. It's literally like, this is what it is. Just be honest with us. Let us know what's happening. What are your behaviors, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I tell folks all the time. Like, if you cannot be truthful with your medical provider, you need a new medical provider. You know, I firmly believe these conversations are also increased as we think about more interdiscipline providers. Mm-hmm. So, like, if your nurse practitioner, if your PA, if your MD has additional degrees, so like the intersection of social working and providing medicine, the intersection of medicine and like public health. I think all those additional, like, I think of like when you go to a Ruth Chris and, ooh, put a lobster tail on top of my filet mignon. You know, that's where we're going with medicine. Yeah. And it only helps. You know, so to have your medical provider be able to talk about population health is ideal because everyone will be healthier versus looking at individuals, you know? Yeah. We have to continue to go that way. We have to continue to have like our insurers, and this is like me showing my public health now. Okay, so like pull me up for air, okay?
Okay.
But like, this is where like quality metrics come in. Okay. And I'll just stop there, okay? Because I'm about to nerd all the way out. Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
And I see the eyes is glazing.
Like,
okay. Dick and ass time. Come on. Go.
I cannot. So yeah, so there's prep, and then also there is PEP. That's post exposure prophylaxis.
Good job.
Bam.
Like, you can get a public health degree.
One thing about it is I've been interested in this for a while because I am a gay black man, and it was one of those things like when I said I dated a man over a decade ago that found out he was positive while we were together. And I remember it being like this, oh my God, like it was just like this whole thing, but that caused me to really kind of figure things out because I actually loved him. Looking back, I'm like, was it love? But back then I was just like, oh my God, it was like in a weird way, this is becoming therapy. In a weird way, I had like survivor's remorse. It was a weird kind of thing of like, oh my God, but it made me learn about it. And then like more and more of my friends were like, okay, so I'm positive. And so it made me want to really go through it. And I always ask myself, just because it's not the same for me doesn't mean I should know about it because I'm still affected by this. I'm still active. In fact, I tell people I'll probably fuck more than half of people who are actually like I'm active. It's always going to be a risk factor.
Yeah.
And so it made me further learn about it. So, I learned about PEP, of course, and I was like, okay. And that whole idea is that if you feel you've been exposed or that you either had unprotected sex, it was a situation. Condomless sex. Thank you. Because, yes, that was a whole other thing that someone else I talked to who works in who was like, we have to look at protection differently.
Yes.
And so, yes, thank you.
Yes.
That's another thing. We look at protection differently. It's different for everyone. Condomless sex.
Yes.
And you either was we want to say, how would you say? We wouldn't say a reckless night, but
it
was just
things happen out of the ordinary.
You have an idea that something could happen. You can take something within 72.
Come on, like you literally can teach the doctors. Okay,
you have 72 hours to take. I won't say cocktail, but it's an
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You take it, and then it actually can. I won't say prevent you
acquisition of HIV.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're absolutely literally. You can charge these hoes $700 a credit hour and give out a certificate from this printer.
Yeah.
Okay, and teach these girls new lessons.
Yes. Teach these girls. You need a shirt that says that. Teach these girls new lessons.
I need a couple of shirts for these
That's
kids.
Good.
But
That's good.
You're absolutely teach these girls.
So there's PrEP and there's PEP. So those are things. Those are options there as well. Mm-hmm. So we talked about treatment. So we can, because I don't want this to be like I feel like most HIV conversations always veer on that part. Let's move into the next level, as I like to call it.
Come on.
You equals you and serodiscordant couples.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is really a thing that needs to be talked about, especially among gay men, because that stigma has a lot of people out here missing out on their blessings, really.
Missing these blessings, honey.
Because you always have the conversation of like, would I ever date someone who was positive?
Yes.
And it's this whole thing. But I'm just like, especially in certain regions, because first of all, I don't really care for the shade that Atlanta gets. I'm like, first of all, every major city, if there's men there, they fucking.
Yes.
So let's not play this game.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a high concentration of men here, but what does that mean? This is an issue in LA, it's an issue in DC, it's an issue in New York, Dallas, Houston.
Everywhere.
Pick a major city.
Right.
Maybe not Iowa, but hey. Maybe.
I mean, it just depends on what piece of the state you're in.
It depends, but that's one thing. And I feel like there's this weird kind of thing. But you're going to encounter people who are positive, like we said, like among black gay men, it's 1-2. That's cool. You're in a room, it's literally half the room.
So let's talk about numbers, right?
Okay.
So like that report was released a few years back.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's
that was like
years back.
Well, it was like 2 years when you did that.
Yeah,
I was stalking your YouTube.
Yeah, it's too long now. But but regardless of 1 and 2, HIV is an issue in our towns, our cities, our hamlets, where we call home. Mm-hmm. Okay. first. Thinking about, again, like our community is so smaller as a result of like racism. Okay.
That's
We
very
tend
real.
to only or more than likely date other black men.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you have 3 folks out of 10 who are already living with HIV and on treatment, that's cool, So we have 7 now. If you have 2 or 3 of those people who do not know their status, and who are living with HIV uncontrolled, so not on meds, again, like that's where those new infections come from. So again, but once someone is on meds, once they're undetectable, like for 6+ months, it's a new conversation. Infection is not occurring, regardless of if you're not in them, if you're not on them.
Yep.
And
that brings us to the U equals U, which means
you.
undetectable equals untransmittable. And it's funny because I'm a very science-based guy. I used to be a little more religious, but now I'm like, let's stick to the facts here.
Come on here.
But I remember hearing these stories of like my friends who would be having condomless sex, and they found out that the person was HIV positive, and they're like, "Well, I don't know what happened. Must have been God, but I'm still negative."
No, bitch.
But now
it's this ARV.
But this was 10 years ago, though. But back then it was like, oh, it was God, it was a miracle. But now I'm like, oh,
it was still
they were taking care of themselves, and they were undetectable, and they didn't transmit to you because you can't transmit it because the viral suppression was there. And so it's like, aha.
And like when we think of like hindsight is 2020, and like my master thesis is on viral suppression specifically, right? So hindsight is 2020. Like our earliest exploration of viral suppression is, keeping mothers healthy with HIV and their children not being born HIV positive. Then that's blown out to, well, let's try it with serodiscordant couples. So where one is living with HIV, one is negative. Let's see if we can treat the person living with HIV to make sure they're undetectable, but also let's give the HIV negative person PrEP. Okay. That shows efficacy. That shows that it worked. Okay. Well, let's just give the positive person, the person living with HIV
and
treatment.
That was about, was it 70,000? I
know 76,000.
Yeah, and the only
condomless sexual acts.
And the only few that did seroconvert, they were in open relationships, and the people that they were sleeping with.
Like, I'm going to throw you out this window because there's doctors.
Yeah,
I know doctors and nurse practitioners who cannot recite what you just said, okay? I'm jumping over this microphone.
Yeah, he's really trying to attack me right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very important to know this. And so that was just like, aha. But then also, so this also pushes me into another thing, because now it's one of those things like, you can totally, if you're negative, or even if you're positive, there's positive people who don't want to be with negative people because they're like, I just don't want they feel like it's this idea of like, if something happened, I don't know, I get that. But then you also have negative people like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, you can totally be with a positive person. The fact that they know they're positive is actually the blessing.
I think
because then you can have real conversations of like where they are with
right.
like how are you, what are your treatments, what are our options, and take it from there.
Yeah.
But now,
come on,
I want to move into disclosure. Because this is
I'm ready to drink. We're going to talk about disclosure this late in the hour. Go ahead.
Okay, well, because it's important. And it's very, very, very important. It's very important. And I get both sides of the coin because we're not dealing with perfect people here. So I don't know where to attack this from. So how about this? I had sex with someone who told me after we had sex that they were positive. That's a misdemeanor, but we're not going to get into that.
So I think we can.
We can. Okay. Let's get into that.
So this is me as a person living with HIV, but also as a person living with HIV with a master's in public health.
Okay.
Right? I do not believe HIV criminalization works. Okay. So what you just said, saying that someone disclosing their status after sex has occurred and whether or not they should be tried. That's known as HIV criminalization. Right.
Which we had that whole ordeal with the tiger situation. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe criminalization works because oftentimes we are talking about like two consenting adults.
Okay.
Right? I think, sure, we can be talking about two adults and maybe substances, weed, alcohol.
I mean, there's always the idea of the whole personal responsibility, but it's still sticky. So continue going with the word.
Okay. So like thinking about criminalization, I don't believe it works because it pushes people away from care.
Mm-hmm.
So like you literally have to, I mean, like this is something we think about every day of the week. Like literally as you take an HIV test at like a community-based organization or at the club or in a van outside of the club, anywhere from 1 minute to 20 minutes later, your life is changed.
Yes.
Okay.
They're too damn quick because that little stick they do now,
instant.
It's literally 2 minutes. If that.
So literally, 2 minutes later, you have a new life.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when people who are living with HIV find out that they're now living with HIV, you have to think about violence. You have to think about everything, you know? I mean, there's been cases in the news where women disclose to their partners and like trauma is inflicted.
Yeah.
Death is inflicted.
And it's because people don't understand it.
And it's because people don't understand it, So professionally and personally, right? Because I've been in the situation where disclosure is difficult as fuck.
It's difficult as fuck.
Like,
and the thing about it is, like, I look at it as this, because like I said, I definitely had a situation like that. And because I understood HIV, the conversation became like, okay, are you undetectable? It became this whole series of things. And it was like, okay, cool. But there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, but what if these factors weren't in place?
And what if you weren't the person on the other side of the couch?
Exactly. And I thought also like, okay, well, so it's one of those things where it becomes this whole thing. And that's how we get to the whole idea. Because it's a very important talk. But I also understand that once again, here comes the generalization alert. Gays can be messy. Can be some gays can be.
I think people
messy.
are messy.
People are messy.
People can be messy.
People can be messy. Fair enough.
Okay.
But still, not everyone can have that information. And so I get being on that end and being like, damn it, well, I don't want this. Even if we haven't had sex and I tell you, I don't know when you leave this place who you're going to spread this to. I've seen people be slandered. And I'm like, you don't have the right to do that. Why do you feel like you have a right to even do that? So, it's one of those things. So I get the fear on that end too. So it's like this. That's why we have to have this talk. Because it's like, what do you do?
I mean, and I think like... And that's after knowing someone's status. I think prior to knowing someone's status, it's the profiles that. So from time to time, I'm on like a little app or whatever. So it's the profiles that say, you be clean.
Which clean is a terrible word to use.
Well, tell your friends that.
Clean is a terrible word to use.
Tell your friends that. It's those things, so if prior to me reading, prior to me telling you intimate details of my life, you're already saying, nah, I think it just limits us to, again, like those meaningful interactions, to learn more.
Yeah. But how does that work with hookup culture, though?
Girl, child. listeners, can y'all write in and tell us how does it work with hookup culture?
And this is why it's important, because it's hard on both ends. Like that's what I'm saying. I get both ends of it. Like it's like fuck. I mean, but then there's also.
I think oftentimes how it works in hookup culture, it's once you're naked and you're figuring out what position, and it comes out, and it's either gonna be like, oh, okay, that's good. Okay, you pause, I'm two. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's we gonna have to stop and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's A or B.
Yeah. It's just one of those hazy things that you're never going to get a solidified answer on, but it is something that I feel needs to be discussed, because it's one of those things like because I had the knowledge, I was like, okay, so let's take it here now. Where are you in your? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm gonna take the pool. Like, even show me his numbers. I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Okay,
I feel that much better.
That's good. Yeah.
I actually ended up liking him, even though I was just like, that was kind of shady. But whatever. I mean, yeah. But
sometimes people don't want to talk about that in that moment.
Well,
so like me, it's kind of difficult dating or whatever. But like literally after folks find out this is what I do, it becomes like a teaching project.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, like these is billable hours for me. Like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Like I'm gonna, so yeah,
it's tough.
Yes.
But what do you do though?
You should have to have.
Do you just not? Well, here's the thing though, and also like I've had quite a few. I think it also comes with where the person is and like in their own journey and stuff like that. Because I've had people straight out before they even came over, like, listen, I'm paused, I'm undetectable, let me know. And I'm just like, okay, I have condoms, we're good. Like I don't understand. Like that's fine. Like knowing is half the battle. Nothing.
No, you're absolutely right. I think knowing is a bigger piece of the battle. It really is a one-on-one conversation. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, even like personally, if we are on the app, depending on what time and depending on how many makers I've done have.
Yeah, after the club.
Child, let me get this out on the first on the first 34 characters, okay? Because I can't remember anything else after this first 34 characters. Mm-hmm. Those are always the better situations. But if they're in like the 60th character, like it gets difficult. Like, okay, fuck. Okay, how are we gonna do this? So
but there's also levels to this though too.
I'm happy you said that, because I was just about to say this is occurring from me as a person who's been living with HIV 10 plus years with a fucking degree. Mm. Okay, and it's still as hard as fuck for me, So someone just found out their status 2 months ago at the van outside of Puppy Lounge, okay, or whatever, the Quickie Mart, okay, and they have to navigate those spaces.
Yeah,
that's hard.
It is hard.
I mean, if you put on like sex work,
yeah.
That's harder.
Yeah.
So it's...
No, I agree with you. Like I said, I'm literally looking at both sides of the coin and being like, but shit, there's levels to it. So, the burden can't be placed on anyone. So you're right. It's just two consenting adults, and there's that thing there. But I think there's also a level of like... I don't know. Fuck it. I don't know. No. Come on. Okay.
This is a vulnerable... Let's be vulnerable. I'll go there with you.
Condomless sex is so popular right now.
So condomless sex has always been popular.
It's always been popular, but like, it's like super like...
I don't know if we can say that.
Okay, you're right. You're right. Okay. I'm sorry. Keep me right. I like it. Condomless sex is popular. Period.
Okay.
in general.
Okay.
And so it's one of those things of like, if you have sex with someone and then it's like after the fact, you're just like, oh shit. So there was like no opportunity for you to be like, oh, let's grab this. You just gotta just do that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's literally the story, but it's not really based in reality.
Disclosure isn't based in reality?
No, I'm talking about just always strap it up.
No.
It's not based in reality.
No, like the only people who are told to strap up always is gay men because of HIV. You know, I think our earliest conversation of sex is don't bring no baby home off the top.
Right.
You know, so yeah, okay. Don't bring no baby home can mean like use a condom, or it can mean perfecting your pull-out game,
Which
right?
is trash.
Girl, hey, I still fall for it from time to time. But anyway, like we are always told, like you have to have safe sex.
Right.
No one truly defines what is safe sex first, right?
And that's how we got this idea of condomless sex, because it's no longer protected, unprotected, because there's other measures.
Because PrEP is safer than condoms.
Yeah.
Treatment as prevention
Yeah.
is the safest.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, I mean, we have documented cases where PrEP fails, you know? Sure, it's only 5 or 6 compared to the multi-thousands.
But they also have interesting factors.
They're always
yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
and complicated situations.
And not enough to be freaked out
Okay?
over.
And not enough not to take PrEP. Okay?
Okay.
She has never been not enough to say, but you know what?
I'll just go, nah.
Maybe I'm going to wait till the next one comes through. No.
Do it now.
No. 5 out of 100,000 plus people using PrEP around the world. Girl.
Yeah. Get on.
But you can't win the fucking Mega Millions with that odd, okay? All right.
Right. So that's really what I was getting to. Is the idea that it's just one of those things, like a lot of sex is not wearing condoms. So it's just like, yes, consent and those things, but if one person has the knowledge, like, oh, I could probably alter this person's life, it's like, fuck.
It's hard.
It's hard, but it's just
hard.
like, fuck, I could alter this person's life. But then I look at it as this though, because like when the person told me, I was like, well, I'll fuck a lot of niggas. I'm sure a lot of them. I'm sure that many of them have been positive and just didn't know. I've been fine thus far, so why am I gonna sweat you for actually knowing your shit? I felt a tinge of betrayal, but I got over it. But it was like, at least you know, at least you're taking care of yourself.
I mean, I think I give the benefit of doubt. No, not the benefit of doubt. I expect the absolute best in all those scenarios. You know, because I think of when it was really, really difficult for me. You know, being newly diagnosed in a place like South Carolina.
And also, do you say congrats? But I mean, 10 years, that's like...
Yeah, I think it is...
consistent care for yourself, and I know just the pressures and the mental warfare that happens. So, I mean, to, be on this end...
I take a congrats.
Congrats to you.
But yeah, like I remember like the first boy that I told I was positive to in South Carolina. And he was like, bitch, bye. You know, and I remember what that feels like in the middle of the night, you know? And I remember also telling someone else in those early days that I'm positive, and they were like, oh, we couldn't do anything. But 6 months later, like, bitch, we in love, you know? So I mean, I've spanned it. I still know what it's like sitting here now, 10 years in the game, and still getting choked up when I had to tell a new partner that I'm living with HIV. Because discrimination is real.
It's so real.
A whole saying "bitch bye" is real. I don't work well with no's.
so you're not
not even rejection. If I go to bitch Mojo's or Papa John's and the woman is like, "Oh, the ranch is 25 cents." No. I just gave you $12. You can give me this for free.
Right. It's rough.
Obviously, I'm not talking to the right person. No shit out of curb, and that's with pizza and chicken wings, So someone being naked with me and we invested.
Well, it's like the whole energy shifts.
Fuck yes,
for sure.
It's a power dynamic.
It's a power dynamic, and it's terrible because one of those things. Like I said, I had to completely check myself with it. I was like, well, hell, we done fucked so many times at this point, and it would be what it is. So why would I now? Even sweat it. So
and last week it was real cold.
Right.
That Thursday night. It was real cold that Thursday night. And the bitch let me out in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And so yes. It's hard.
It's hard, it's difficult, but here's the thing. I think it's one of those things we're in a very I don't want to say new time, but it is a new time.
Yeah, it is.
I am definitely grateful to be on this end of science. But PrEP, or as you said, what was the term you used as protection? Treatment as
treatment as prevention.
It's as prevention. It's actually legit because here's the thing. Even me and that person actually continued having sex, wonderful sex. I was like, of course it'd be wonderful. Why wouldn't it be? And there was a certain I've had two PrEP quarterlies in that time, and there was kind of a piece in being negative and being like, oh shit, this is legit. It's getting over that cognitive dissonance of what people have banged into your head. No, this is the only way. It's the only way. And it was like, oh shit,
your only way is bullshit.
And it was just like, oh,
it's truly a paradigm shift.
But it opened up the world for me though, where I was just like, wow, that opens. Honestly, my dating pool just expanded. I was like, oh, all these niggas.
We can be honest. I don't know. Y'all look at y'all podcast hosts. You a snack. You getting new people. They getting new people. Ultimately, I love this quote. Okay, Oprah. I love Oprah. Did you hear me? Did you see me? And did what I say matter?
Yeah.
And it's love.
It's love.
It's really love. It's really a meaningful connection. And HIV has stopped so much love. And now it doesn't have to be that way anymore.
It does not at all.
It doesn't have to be that way anymore. It doesn't have to
even be a fear. So I had this one situation where I was dating this one guy. We hadn't even gotten to sexual talk. We were just chilling. And I invited him over for fucking tacos. I was like, I'm gonna make some tacos, blah, blah. We take it serious in California. So let me, make some tacos. And he literally just randomly sent me a text yo, I'm Paz. And I'm just like, okay, so do you want cilantro or no? The whole thing. But I know, I didn't want to be facetious. I'm like, no, I hear you. Thank you for telling me. I know it takes a lot of courage, but it's really not. It's not here or there. We'll figure it out. And I remember it just kind of, like you said, there's a power shift, but it doesn't have to be. It actually can make people see you and say oh shit. I felt like it was almost like a burden was kind of removed too.
But calling me. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. As a person with the HIV.
Don't say that. Don't put the
with the HIV. All right. Disclosure occurs. And they say it's thank you for sharing, you good. Were you gonna know that? That's the best situation. So if that happens over a taco and cilantro, Bitch, I am here for it.
But like ultimately, and I think that's why this conversation was so important, because like I said, like it literally opens up a vast, like, I hate to say options, but it
they are options.
It changed the dynamic, because I mean for the longest time I can admit myself that in my list of qualities it was like I prefer him to be negative too, and then I was kind of like, that's not really a factor. Like I prefer him to know his status and be taking care of himself. Either way. But if someone's just not getting tested, then I think that's more of a risk. Like, oh no,
certainly,
you're not even
in the
realm.
You have to think about it. Like people who are living with HIV, if they're connected to medical care, they're seeing their doctor 3 or every 4. People who are virally suppressed long term see their doctors every 6 or even 1 time a year. So like. That's interaction with medical experiences. That's the same conversation that we had earlier. Mm-hmm. Folks know what their body is like. Folks are getting STI checked at all 3 sites, compared to someone who believe that they good or that they negative. And I'm a top, and I only fuck bottom. So like, girl, like that's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm here for it all. But that's a lot, and it's gonna be a no for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you need to know your status.
Girl, cause like every time I go to my doctor and I may test positive for a sexually transmitted infection, I have to talk to like the health educator. And I'm like, girl. And the health educator comes into the room. These are condoms. Do you know how to use the condom? Girl, bitch, you don't know how to use a fucking condom.
I always laugh when I go to my prep meeting. They're always like, for oral sex, are you using a condom? No, but they're already shaking their head no to me. They're like, no. They're like, no one's doing that. You're good, girl. But I always crack up, though, because they're already answering it for me like,
no. Okay.
What I also liked, and I think this will be the final kind of close out, because I think we touched everything. But I also, so I love, what is it called? The Amber Rose show now. But she has Dr. Chris on there. Okay. Love him. Okay. Because that's the actual factual person there. And I agree with him. He's like, we also villainize STDs. Yeah. When in reality, the common cold is actually way more worse than he's like, when people get sick, you don't be like, oh my God, you was out here in the world. Like you can actually get a common cold from just being in the world. But because things are linked to sex, we make this whole villainous thing about it. But what I liked about my prep doctor, he was just real mean. He's like, listen, if you're actively having sex, there's a chance that you may get something, but guess what? We'll handle it. So live your fucking life. And I never have someone be so fucking authentic about it, where it was like, don't live your life in this weird ass, this, like you're keeping a record. Like, oh my God, like, oh, this is, he's like, listen, he's like, chlamydia you can get from someone eating your ass. He's like, yes. He's like, there's actually been, and this was an interesting one. It was a stretch, but it was interesting. He's like, there have been straight men. He's like, you have to understand, if a woman is on top of you, mm-hmm. and all the juices and all those things are flowing, they can easily slip down into the crack of your ass, and now you have chlamydia in your ass. He's like, it sounds crazy, but it's a possibility, is it not? And I'm like, okay, it's a stretch, but I get it. But it was one of those things, though. But he was like, listen, all I'm saying is, as long as you're regularly getting tested, he's like, if anything ever pops up, we'll handle it, and you'll move on. It's nothing to be like, oh, I should do this differently. I should change this. No, you're doing something by being here every quarter. Yes.
Bitch, I pay insurance, goddamn it. Bitch, I pay a goddamn premium every fucking month, okay? Yeah. So as me paying a premium for health insurance, bitch, this is what comes with it, okay? I'm going to walk into my primary care physician and say, bitch, give me a cotton swab so I can swab my ass and swab the back of my throat, okay?
I hate that we have to do it ourselves now. It was so much fun when they did it for me.
It was not fun.
My nurses were always hot. I'm like, you trying to get my number? You already got it in your little file.
It was not fun. It's much better to do it by yourself now.
It's okay.
But again, like, I pay a premium and I'm grown, okay?
I pay a premium and
I'm grown, okay? So I'm not gonna be shamed. I'm not gonna be shamed. Matter of fact, I need to call my doctor now and be like, I need to go come get a STI check.
I literally just had mine last week. They called me today to tell me everything was good. I was like,
so like, I mean, I've been like, sexually high functioning as of late.
yes, high functioning.
And I'm going about 2 years without like testing positive for a sexually transmitted infection. And I feel proud.
You're like a pro. You're like a gold star.
Gold star.
It gets down to a science. I feel like our radars get better after a while.
No, I don't believe that at all. No.
Well, congratulations on your 2 years.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been paying my premium, and I'm gonna continue to go and get checked.
Yeah,
and you
really
should go get your butt, and you should get your throat checked too.
Yeah.
If you have sex at any of your parts, you should get those parts checked.
Yeah.
Okay. If you feel you cannot talk to your doctor about that, we can help you find a new doctor.
Yeah, because you shouldn't be with that doctor.
You should not be with that doctor.
It was a family doctor. Why the fuck are you still going to a family doctor?
Because again, like, family doctors are usually the only people in these places. The South is country.
Yeah.
The South is country. Everyone doesn't have fancy specific doctors.
Yes, fancy specific. You're right.
Like we have in our metropolitan.
You're right. You are right.
But again, like, you should be comfortable enough to talk to your doctor about anything. You should not feel the need to lie or not tell all of the truth to your doctor.
Yeah, because you're not going to get any healing that way.
Healing does not come through lies. I like that. That's the take-home message right there.
That is a take-home message. All right. Well, let the people know where they can find you.
So I'm on the Facebook. My name is Daniel D. Driffin. I am also on the Instagram. I'm older, so I don't know how to do those looping videos and none of that fancy stuff on the Instagram. I only post a picture every now and then. I'm also on the Twitter. I gotta tell the people my name. It's at D Driffin. D like David, D-R-I, F like Frank, F like Frank, I-N. It's the same across all the boards.
It'll be in the show notes.
Okay, thank you. I welcome people. As always, you can follow Thrive SS at our website. It'll be on the notes.
Yes, it'll be on
the minutes. Will have all these contact things. Okay. You can always donate.
Yeah.
Hear me with your heart, people. Good people, come close to this radio. Find a community-based organization. Find grassroots networks that are doing non-traditional work that you want to support, and give them $1. Not literally $1, maybe like 10, 15, 20. $100 go a long way every month. But you can always donate to Thrive SS at www. I sound so old. www.thrivess.org/donate, and all these things will be available. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. This is an awesome show. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it will help the people.
So I hope so.
Yeah.
And I'm here. Like, we could do this in the city someplace next time.
To be fair, I offered to meet him in the city. He was like, I will come to you.
I feel like you just said that like Senator Chuck Grassley, we could have came to California to do it. I did not get that message.
Listen. I was willing. I asked you to be on the show, so I was willing to accommodate. But I appreciate you for coming out and sharing your wealth of knowledge with me and my listeners. So.
I am here. I would love to come back maybe quarterly.
Yeah, little check-in.
And we just talk about sex.
Right.
Like big ass, secretions, prep, tasks.
I mean, because it's a conversation that needs to be had all the time.
Certainly.
So you're absolutely right.
Certainly.
All right, you guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you are sharing this. Make sure you are using the hashtag The Outline Podcast. And leaving your ratings and comments, and 5-star ratings only, because, what else would you give it? That's trash. But anyway, I'll talk to you all next week. Peace out.